How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope, this time for July 26th through August 1st of 2021. We're already getting into August of 2021. This is a huge week. This is really the week that kind of changes everything in 2021, and we start really heading towards a different kind of direction. Astrologers have been talking about this week for a while. We have a lot of highlights this week, so let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. Now, I helped you guys out. I got it written down. Let me know if you guys like this better now that it's text and it's a little bit more legible. But anyway, we start this week off really on Monday with just the moon being opposite Venus while the moon's, just in Pisces. So what's nice about Mondays, we're coming off of that, we're still coming off of that full moon in Aquarius that was conjoining Saturn. Things got really serious. Things got real. Then as the moon went into Pisces and conjoined Jupiter, there's that sense of kind of like, not freedom, but dampness. There's this kind of like, when the moon goes into Jupiter, right? Or not goes into, when the moon conjoins Jupiter as it goes into Pisces, it's kind of like, that feeling of like coming home after a long time. And I think as we go into Monday with the moon separating from Jupiter, and then making this opposition to Venus and Virgo is like when you want to get home from a vacation and you just want to relax, but your house is like dirty and you're like, fuck, I gotta like pick all this stuff up. It's like you can't relax because things aren't the way that you want them to be. Have you ever like felt that way? Maybe you can't relax because your place isn't clean or something isn't right and you have to, do something to combat it. That's what Monday feels like. And I think as the moon is separating from Venus kind of all day, after that opposition, there's kind of this weird in-between place of like, okay, what do you need to do? What do you need to fix in order to kind of make yourself feel comfortable? But also, where can you be a little bit more open to being comfortable? Like, can you just relax for a minute without having to, fix and change everything? Like, just vibe for a minute. I think Monday's going to be a really good day to vibe and to not stress the stuff that's out of your control and just not stress the things that aren't perfect, right? Venus is in Virgo. Venus is in fall in Virgo. We can have these specific wants and these specific pleasures and we can sometimes have those fulfilled, but we're not always going to get exactly what we want, and that's okay. As long as, we remind ourselves in the middle of it that it's not okay. That it is okay. Maybe it isn't okay for some of you. Anyway, we jump into Tuesday, and as you can see on Tuesday, we're going to be having just the moon make a conjunction with Neptune as it's in that end degrees of Pisces, and as well on Tuesday, we are going to be having Mercury enter Leo, which I'm really excited about. Let's get everything out of Cancer. So on Tuesday, as you see, the moon's going to be on Neptune all day long. Pretty much, there's this, the moon conjoining Neptune is, romanticizing situations. We're getting caught up in things, which have fun, enjoy. There's so much Pisces energy coming along in the next year. Like this moon conjoining Neptune, when you can romanticize things, when you can enjoy things, like when you can enjoy the nostalgia, when you can enjoy the immersement of everything, but enjoy it. But I think with the moon conjoining Neptune, it's just really important to have discernment of, where are you getting swept away with things? Where are things real and where are things not? There's certain things that you can enjoy, that it's like a video game. You can enjoy certain things out of a video game, but it's not real. You know what I mean? You can enjoy movies without thinking that they're real, right? There's this kind of blurred line, this blurred edge with that Neptune kind of creates when it comes to what's real and what's not. And a lot of that has to do with context. So I think as the moon's conjoining Neptune, try not to get swept up into things. You can still enjoy, enjoy the movie, but it's not real. You know what I mean? It's just, it's just Hollywood. So don't get too lost in that. But as Mercury goes into Leo, again, Mercury is not only our ideas and, our thoughts, but it's like how we're processing things. It's our rational mind. And with Mercury being in Cancer, there's this mental focus on, necessity, on the internal things, on okay, how are we feeling? It's much more tuned into that gut instinct, right? Versus Mercury going into Leo is going much more connected to the soul, much more connected to the higher mind stuff. Mercury in Leo is again, Mercury being about how we communicate a message, how we say things. Mercury in Leo, it's in the sun sign. It's very blunt. It's very direct. It's very authentic. It can be very loud, a little bit coarse, a little bit harsh. But as Mercury goes into Leo, there's this sense of pride. There's this sense of, excitement, passion, truth that I think as Mercury transits Leo, you're going to feel like you're speaking more from a place of, that you're going to be coming more from a place of. And as we go into this Leo stuff, as we talk about through this week, because we have a lot of stuff going on this week, as Mercury goes into Leo, there's this, and the sun's in Leo, there's this sense of kind of like, again, individualizing yourself. Being able to, for one, a lot of people are going to be feeling a lot more confident, better summertime, right? But as that gets closer and closer to this opposition with Saturn, there's kind of this need to identify from the individual perspective, from the subjective perspective, rather than just from an objective, cold truth or, from a specific stance. Well, anyway, so on Tuesdays, Mercury goes into Leo. You'll probably be speaking a little bit more boastfully, having a little bit more pride. Also, just like saying what has to be, like not being afraid to say what you got to say because you're speaking from your place of truth. It's just, that you could, even if speak from your truth all you want, it could still get you in trouble. It could still cause it. That doesn't mean you're going to get off scot-free and that it's going to be super easy, right? As we go into Wednesday, we actually have a lot going on, so bear with me as I cover all of it. As we go into Wednesday, we're going to be having the moon ingress into Aries, right? And as it ingresses into Aries, it's going to trine Mercury. It's going to trine the sun since they're both in early Leo. So there's all this fire energy that's coming about. Jupiter's going to go back into Aquarius. We've talked about this pretty much May 14th when Jupiter entered Pisces and masks went off from CDC guidance. Every astrologer was like, yeah, that's not going to last that long. Masks are probably going to come back on Wednesday, I'm going to assume. They're already back in some places, but it's probably going to be back a little bit more hardcore on Wednesday. If not, you're going to feel a lot of other stuff. We'll talk about that. But Jupiter's going to retrogress back into Aquarius. As it retrogresses back into Aquarius, it hits Mars. So there's the Mars-Jupiter opposition. Plus, on Wednesday, Venus is squaring the nodes in the midst of it. So as we actually look at the chart, a lot of things going on, right? The moon's going to go into Aries, and it's going to trine Mercury in Leo, where it's going to be kind of funny. Just, if they do masks again, it's just going to be exactly what you guys expect. Moon in Aries, trining Mercury in Leo. A lot of people, saying how they feel about that. Not being afraid to say how they feel about that. Both ways, you know what I mean? Look at Mars and Jupiter opposite each other. Clearly, this is a day of conflict. This is a day a lot of you will choose violence. But I think as the moon's in Aries, trining Mercury in Leo, like there is something to confront. There is something to speak about. Now, be careful. Again, fires could spread really fast. So my thing is with this is like pick and choose your battles. Not everything's worth fighting for. Not everything's worth putting your energy into. And you can definitely get swept into this type of stuff. But in a lot of ways, with the moon in Aries, there's a lot to confront. There's a lot to go about. It's trining Mercury in Leo, where you got a lot of confidence. You got a lot of, like, you're thinking in this way of that's like, yeah, I feel good. I know what I'm doing. This is what I'm about. This is what I believe in. You've got Mars at 29 Leo hitting Jupiter in Aquarius. Now, Jupiter's going to go from Pisces back to Saturn's sign, where Saturn is, right? So what has been going on since December, January, February, March, April? That seems like a lifetime ago, right? It doesn't even seem like this year. That's why it's super funny. 2021, like I said, Jupiter in Pisces is going to give us just a small taste of what 2022 has to be like. And I'm telling you, once it goes back like that, we're going to look at that little sliver of spring and be like, wow, that was really nice compared to everything else. But as Jupiter goes back into Aquarius, it goes back into the sign of Saturn. Jupiter is all about expansion. Jupiter is all about abundance. And it just went into its home sign of Pisces, and it has to go back into Saturn's sign, right? Where it has to deal with restrictions. It has to deal with consolidation. It has to deal with efficiency. It has to deal with sustainability, right? Saturn is Aquarius is a fixed sign, so it's about continuation, and Saturn is like dealing with less of something. So that idea of sustainability is what's important here. Jupiter is also about integration, right? And so as Jupiter goes into Saturn's sign, Saturn's been in Aquarius, we've had the squares to Uranus, it's retrograde now. There's the sense of like, okay, where do I have to adapt? Where do I have to change? Where do I have to also deal with less? Deal with again, this is why masks are probably going to come back. There's going to be some type of restriction that's going to go over kind of everything. But on a personal level, when you look at as Jupiter goes back into Aquarius, there's this restriction that the freedom that Jupiter just had is going to be restricted, and it has Mars in Leo opposite. It doesn't really matter what side of the story you're on. I think we're all going to be upset about a lot of different things, because Jupiter going opposite Mars is, sure, we all, like, everyone might do, but I don't think, I think asking people to not complain about it is kind of ridiculous. I think everyone will complain about it. But I also think when you look at this in a personal sense, with Jupiter being about like our faith, our belief, what we're hopeful for, as Jupiter goes back into Aquarius, we have to be a little bit more rational. We have to be a little bit more realistic. And I think as Mars and Leo, that's going to kind of burn our ego a little bit. It's just not going to, we're going to get kind of checked, right? That freedom that we thought all that good, we're going to get kind of checked a little bit, and we're going to go back to how it was the first 6 months of 2021. Okay. What is so interesting about this day, and this is what caught my eye about Wednesday, is that Venus is squaring the nodes, which, Venus hasn't been doing much with the nodes, but I feel like Venus in Virgo in fall, where Venus is about enjoyment, right? Pleasure, and Venus is in Virgo. It's just not scratching the itch that you got. And I think as Venus is heading towards the South Node, because the other thing too is, we're going to do a little fast forward because I know you guys enjoy this stuff. What I love about doing these weekly horoscopes is being able to talk about a transit right now that I know is going to be important later on. And this is why I think the Venus square the nodes will be important. Is let's go to October. A whole bunch of things happen by October, but what I want to show you is when Mercury and Mars have their little Cazimi in Libra, because I've talked about this before. Check out Venus. Venus is on the South Node. And this Mercury retrograde Cazimi with Mars Cazimi that's happening in Venus' sign, and Venus is on the South Node, right? So, context clues, right? Clearly there's some seeds being planted here with this Venus node stuff. Well, let's go back to Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. Hold on. Oh, shit. Whoops. Sorry. Let me get to the right button here. So we get to Wednesday, right? This isn't even the right week. Hold on. There we go. We get to Wednesday, and Venus is squaring the nodes. Where a fallen Venus, right? When you really want to enjoy something and you don't, it like upsets you, right? And I feel like Venus squaring the nodes, this is going to kind of change something. It's like, have you ever gone, you want to enjoy something and it just doesn't scratch that itch anymore, so you just stop going for it. You just stop wanting it. You just stop trying to get that, right? I think this Venus squaring the nodes is really going to be that way. I think as Venus goes closer and closer towards the South Node, there's this, knowing that we need to kind of change something, knowing that we need to release something that's going to be something that comes up in October. And I think that kind of starts here, where we start to kind of go, oh, I don't actually eat, maybe I'm not getting the thing I'm enjoying because I don't actually enjoy the thing I think I enjoy. And so I would be really open when we go into Wednesday as to what you want and how you're receiving what you want. And is that, again, scratching the itch really? I guess just be open to that, because again, this is something that's just going to come up in the coming weeks and months when we get to October. So anyway, Wednesday looks really crazy. Again, Moon in Aries trining Mercury and Leo. We're really confronting a lot of things. We're really coming from this place of authenticity, from truth. Jupiter's going back into Aquarius. We're dealing with a little bit more of reality. I think we're getting a little bit more serious. I think all of our egos are going to be bruised. And I think Venus and Virgo is going to go, okay. Clearly things need to change a little bit. So let's talk about Thursday. We get into Thursday. Technically, the Mars-Jupiter opposition happens on Thursday. Yes, Mars and Jupiter will be opposite each other on Wednesday, and I think you'll feel it probably the most on Wednesday, but it doesn't happen exactly until Thursday. Mars will go opposite Jupiter on Thursday. Mars then ingresses into Virgo on Thursday, which is another crazy chain of events. And then the moon's kind of just hanging out, really. So to bring up the chart, as we get into Thursday, Mars will actually hit Jupiter on Thursday. So think of Mars as a needle and think of Jupiter as a balloon. Things pop, things change, things end. Mars is like a fist, and Jupiter. Mars is kind of like, have you ever been driving? And let's say you're not even texting. Let's say you're just checked out because you're just vibing. Because driving on the road literally puts you in a trance state. When you're listening to music, super easy to check out. And have you ever just checked out and then looked and been like, oh crap, like you didn't even sorry, I got like a hair on my eye, but you didn't even realize that like you were checked out, that you were spaced out, and you go like, oh my God, like, you know, maybe you're going a little fast. Like I know when I drive in the desert, sometimes when you drive in the desert, it's super easy to go like 100 miles an hour in the desert without even realizing it. You're like, oh my God, let me slow down real quick. That's what a lot of Thursday looks like, I think, with the Mars-Jupiter opposition. This is an ego check. This is also, too, with Mars in Leo opposite Jupiter and Aquarius, is like, again, pick and choose your battles. I think if you, it's going to be, it's Mars opposite Jupiter. You're going to get gassed up. But also, too, like, don't let people gas you up. Mars in Leo opposite, like, like, just check yourself, okay? Mars will go into Virgo immediately after it. So that's the big thing. It would be different if like Mars was opposite Jupiter, but then continued through Leo. I'd been like, oh, blow up, who cares? But then Mars goes into Virgo right afterwards. I'm like, that sounds like to me like you may not exactly like all of your decisions that you might do at that critical moment. So as Mars goes into Virgo though, where Mars is about our action, you know, drive, how we fight too. Mars in Leo has been very like cocky, prideful, egotistical, very like doing things for them to be seen. Mars in Virgo is much more tactical. Mars in Virgo is much more specific. Mars in Virgo is much more plan oriented. Mars in Virgo, you know, you can have an argument that Mars in Virgo is more organized, but I would say that Mars in Virgo is just much more specified, right? You have like Mars in Aries. I make the analogy all the time of like Aries is like the Marine, which like a lot of Marines, they kind of can just do whatever. Like Mars in Virgo is very specialized action, very specialized, specific types of action. Not necessarily, oh, you know, you have Mars in Virgo, you're organized. Not necessarily the case. You might be really organized in one specific thing and really good at, you know, applying yourself in specific ways, but maybe organizing, that sounds a little hard for Mars and Virgo to do. Mars is energetic and chaotic, right? In Virgo, it's a little bit difficult to, you know, get the kid to calm down a little bit when Mars is in Virgo. Gosh, I just always have something in my eye every time I do a weekly horoscope now. I don't know why. It's really annoying though. Anyway, as Mars goes into Virgo, there's the sense of being like kind of over specific of, well, not over specific, like kind of just really paying attention to detail, really wanting things to go a specific way. The hypochondriac is going to come out. I think as Mars goes into Virgo too, our fights will be much more verbal, will be much more, you know, specific, nitpicky, just nitpicky in general. So kind of musty energy a little bit too. So it's just Thursday will feel a little weird. And I think too, the moon's not really doing much on Thursday. The moon's kind of just hanging out. It's long separating from a sextile with Saturn. You know, it's far away from the sun. It still has to sextile the moon. So it still has another aspect. It's not technically void. So, but it's just not doing anything. So I think Thursday is just going to feel unresolved. Is a good way to look at it. I think Mars, like again, Mars in Leo opposite Jupiter with Mars going into Virgo is being like, I was just watching, I've been really getting into Roman history. And there's this YouTube channel. Some of you guys may know him, Historia Civilius, one of like my favorite YouTube channels. So good. He was talking about Julius Caesar doing this triumph, which if you don't know what a triumph is, pretty much if you are held imperator, like if you kick ass in battle, pretty much you get to go to Rome and show off and be a cool guy pretty much for a day, and you get a whole parade for yourself. Well, Julius Caesar did a triumph. This was like his 5th triumph, but he did this triumph, and it was over the Roman Civil War. And in triumphs, they show pictures of the war, and like they showed a bunch of pictures of like Romans killing each other, and the civilians of Rome were like, "This is kind of fucked up. Why am I watching this?" And someone had made a comment, and Julius Caesar really wanted this to be a big show. And then someone made like this small one-hand comment. It was like Aquilius, something Aquilius, I forgot her name. They made a comment about something like super nitpicky, and it just totally ruined the whole triumph for Julius Caesar. And he couldn't get that one thing that this like person said about his little triumph like out of his head, and ruined the whole thing. That's exactly what I see with this, like as Mars goes in Virgo. So like if you're trying really hard to do something, it might not go exactly the way you want it to, and you think you might get a little upset about that. So again, check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's really the biggest thing here. Let's go into Friday. Moon's going to sextile Jupiter, like we talked about. The moon's then going to go into Taurus, and the moon's then going to trine Mars. So I actually really do like Friday. As we get into Friday, again, the moon's going to make that nice little sextile to Jupiter as it leaves Aries. So there's this kind of like boost of energy. This like, okay, fuck it, we're going to do it. Okay, let's go for it. Let's like boost of confidence, let's go. And as the moon goes into Taurus and trines Moon in Virgo, it's like, this is kind of like when you have your system laid out. Like, have you ever, oh gosh, I know I can think of a good analogy for this, but I can't. It's like when you lay out, have you ever done something unorganized and it took you a long time to get everything done, but then maybe you came to do that same thing again and you laid out, let's say you laid out all your tools and you put up a little system like, what's it called with like gift wrapping almost. Maybe if you, I can't, maybe that's not even the best one, but I think as the moon's in Taurus, trining Mars and Virgo, maybe gift wrapping, like rather than trying to wrap each gift randomly, like sit on the floor, turn on a movie, right? Put all your packages there, get comfortable and get to work. That's the moon in Taurus trining Mars and Virgo. Get yourself comfortable, sit down and get all your tools around you to where you don't have to get up for a while, put on a movie and do what you got to do, right? Mars is in Virgo. For a lot of people, for a lot of us, that's going to be like Mars and Venus are going to be together in Virgo. We're going to be getting a lot of work done. I don't know when school starts anymore. I don't even know if summer exists anymore, but pretty much you're going to see this Virgo energy kick a lot of people into gear of trying to get a lot of things done, wanting to be much more productive. And I think this moon in Taurus trining Mars in Virgo is really going to kick us into gear, right? That moon in Aries kind of sparks the fire. And then as the moon goes into Taurus, we can kind of keep that energy and that stability going. Now, what was the other thing going on Thursday? Oh, that's really it. Friday. Yeah, that's really it on Friday. Moon will trine Mars. That looks pretty comfortable. What's going on Saturday? So on Saturday, we're going to be having the moon make a square to Saturn. The moon is then going to conjoin Uranus, and then the moon's going to trine Venus. A lot of wins, a lot of losses at the same time for Saturday. As the moon makes that square to Saturn, again, we got to deal with a little bit of less. Saturn's in the superior position here. Moon in Taurus is like, I'm trying to get comfortable, but you're not going to always have that. This is kind of like, you're not always going to get your way, and you might have to go a little bit out of your comfort zone, right? So as the moon squares Saturn, there's this resistance to that change. It's that getting out of the bed. Like moon in Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius for the next 2 years is literally that feeling of like trying to get out of bed. Of like, okay, I'm really comfortable. I don't want to leave, but I have to. That's what Saturday is going to feel like. And the moon's going to conjoin Uranus. It's one of those things where you kind of just have to like jump into it. And it's kind of like jumping into the water. You just got to jump into it. If you try to convince yourself, it's like, have you ever like been like, oh, I'm going to start doing this thing at 3:00. And then it's like 3:02 and you're like, I will wait another hour. I will start now at 4 because it can't be perfect, right? The moon conjoining Uranus is like, you can't, you just got to do it. Just fucking do it. Just go, just do it. Don't worry about it. The moon's trining Venus the whole time, right? So as the moon's trining Venus, there's the sense of like, it's okay for things not to be perfect. Like one thing I love about like Venus and Virgo is like trying new things, right? Like, I don't want to say Venus and Libra isn't good for trying new things, but Venus and Libra, like it has to be perfect. Like Venus and Virgo, like, if like it's not perfect, right? It's not good. There's this ability to try new things, to get out of your comfort zone, because you kind of don't have that. You kind of have the safety to. You have the okay to. And so I think as this moon in Taurus is trining Venus in Virgo, there's this sense of like, again, you're gonna have to get out of your comfort zone. You're doing things that you don't really want to do, but it's okay because you're not perfect. No one's perfect, but you're figuring it out. That's the thing with this Venus in Virgo, right? So, again, wins and losses. I think, if you're trying not to change and get out of your comfort zone, I think it's going to suck. But the other thing is too, now, we also have this Mercury Cazimi. It actually doesn't go exact until Sunday. So let's actually, watch. You see how it won't go, watch. This is happening all day through, so this is happening through Saturday through Sunday. So I'll start talking about it now. There's a lot of things that you're going to realize that absolutely have to be done with this Mercury conjunction opposite Saturn in Aquarius. There's just certain things that you have to realize about yourself. This is that Leo sun opposite Saturn in Aquarius. Bygones are going to be bygones. You can't change. It's super funny when I go on Twitter and like people like trying to change other people's minds. Like you're just not going to do that, right? This is one of those times where it's a Mercury Cazimi, right? Things are clicking. There's information coming in. Things are starting to, think of the end of April when we had that Mercury Cazimi in Aries. That was really invigorating, right? This is much more serious. This is confronting. This is, standing firm with a lot of things. This is being disciplined. This is, being serious. This is putting your foot down, but not in that, Mars childish way, but like in that Saturnian grown-up way. I think, again, the moon's squaring Saturn. We're doing things we don't want to do, but it's okay. This is new. We're growing, right? And as we get into Sunday, this is, also continuing from Saturday. As we get into Sunday, the moon is going to be squaring Jupiter all day long. And we're going to have the Mercury Cazimi while Mercury is opposite Saturn, right as we start August, right? So August 1st, right? The moon is applying to the square with Jupiter, where, again, if going out of our comfort zones is going to literally require us to change our beliefs about things, right? It's kind of like, if you want change, you literally are gonna have to change your view on it. And a lot of this moon in Taurus squaring Jupiter and Aquarius is like that change is uncomfortable. It's growing pains is really what it is. But Mercury will conjoin the sun earlier in the morning and then go right opposite Saturn immediately afterwards. So, this is Mercury being purified by the light of the sun. The light of the sun is in Leo. This is like, hey, like, you're pretty clear about who you are, what you want, what you believe, what you see. And with this opposite Saturn, what's super important here is, are you individualizing yourself from one, the collective, from people, right? Saturn in Aquarius is a lot of things, right? For one, you're going to see where there's a strength in numbers, but then I think when you have something as Saturn is retrograde and the sun's in Leo, you are going to be, this is about pointing out the issues with that. And this is about why it is important to stand out and do things much more independent, and not subscribe so much to, all of group thought. And I really think that this Mercury Cazimi is kind of that, as we start August off, kind of being able to say, okay, who am I? What am I doing? How do I see things? What am I committing myself to? What responsibilities or liabilities am I now taking on? Because this is opposite Saturn, right? There's this kind of, we're really looking at, it's a sun in Leo opposite Saturn in Aquarius, right? What is our involvement and our responsibility with shared thoughts, with collective ideas, with responsibility, with discipline? So I think we really, August starts off really serious. I think it's a great opportunity to, start things again. Like maybe, Jupiter's now out of Pisces for me. For me personally, I I've been trying to tell people, get as much as you can of Jupiter and Pisces, because that's what we got until January, really. And it's going to be a pretty rough winter, in my opinion. And I know I've been saying that, and I don't mean to say that to scare people either. Like, just like COVID, I talked to clients from all around the world who had completely different experiences. Some people lost everything. Some people gained everything. Like, again, I say it's going to be a rough winter because I think that there's going to be a lot of changes. It's not going to be a comfortable winter. It's going to be an uncomfortable winter. So I look at this time as we get into the beginning of August, like, get serious. Like, this I guess we're not done here in terms of lessons that we got to learn, trials and tribulations. I know I talk really far in advance in a lot of my horoscopes. Like, when we get to April of next year, April is really when I think everything really opens up and we're kind of done with COVID for the most part. Not that I don't think COVID will ever go away, but I think we'll be done with it. But I think from here on out, there's this much more serious position. And I think we have to talk as a society, right? Like that, there's a lot of weight and pressure on all of us to be making the right decisions or to be doing the right things, regardless of what we think is right. It is right. And it's going to be really easy to bring the negative energy back. Like, not to say that it ever went away, but Jupiter and Pisces, I've noticed, like, again, as an astrologer, my job is really talking to people about this shit. Like, things really did get alleviated for a second. It's not perfect, but you're going to see that weight in that. We're not done. We're not done yet. You know what I mean? So it's going to require some mental discipline. It's going to require mental strength. It's going to require soul strength, in my opinion, to not let, to only let your outside circumstances affect you so much, right? You've got to, this, in my opinion, this is where you've got to step in and say, what do I've got to do in order to get through this, right? This isn't so much about like this is like, where do you step up to the plate and you take action, right? Like, it's your life. You're in control. You're in the driver's seat as much as you can be. So I just think as we kind of start the rest of this year, if you don't want to be negatively affected by, I think, in my opinion, is going to be a pretty rough winter for a lot of people, this would be a really good time to start training that mental strength, gassing yourself up for one, but like doing what you've got to do to kind of get real. You know what I mean? I think this is a really sobering Mercury Cazimi. I think this is a very reality hitting for a lot of people. And that's not always bad. In fact, that may not even be bad depending on your definition. But I do look at this as kind of all aboard, last stop. Like, really, this is how the rest of the year is going to go. We have this, shit gets really real, and I think August we're all going to be kind of preoccupied with things. Venus will go into Libra, and that'll be nice. We get through September. September's kind of weird, but at the end of September we have the Mercury retrograde, right? And things change. That will kind of distract us. And then by October, everything like kind of ends up working out. There's this like settlement, and it feels like we can really move on with a lot of the stuff that we're kind of taking on right now. But then we kind of go into a pretty rough winter of November, December, January looks pretty shit. So, we do have a couple more months of good, in my opinion, pretty good astrology. Like, yes, there's a Mercury retrograde in Libra, and some people will think that it'll be bad. I don't think it'll be that. I kind of am looking forward to the Mercury retrograde, especially once Mercury stations direct and Jupiter stations direct and Saturn stations direct. We only have a few more months till that, really. We don't have that much more time. That will be all good, but that's really the last stop for the winter, right? That's kind of like this is the last call, essentially. But this is kind of like, this isn't the last call, but this is like closing time's coming. There's a part of summer where you get to enjoy the summer, and then there's the part of summer where you got to make hay while the sun shines. And I think that's what clicks here in August, is like, all right, it's time to get a little real. It's time to get a little serious. I know I've been kind of just ranting off on that now. We get to next week, and next week, here, let me zoom in a little bit. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but as we get to next week, Sun is going to go opposite Saturn. So again, there's a lot of that confrontation of that, of our responsibilities, what we're serious about. Venus trines Uranus, which is super cool. The sun's going to square Uranus, which is a little hectic. That's going to be a little bit wild. And then we get the new moon in Leo next week. So the new moon in Leo is super like, new moon, new you, right? But I think after we have the sun opposite Saturn, this is kind of like knowing who we are by comparing ourselves to everybody else and realizing we're not that. And I think that sun opposite Saturn is going to be like questioning where you relate to everyone else that you're with. And the new moon in Leo is like, okay, let's clear up who I am. Let's clear up about how I feel about certain subjects. Let's clear up about like my specific things. So again, I just think, in my opinion, things get a little bit more of a serious vibe over this next week. But that's what I got for you guys this week. So with that being said, thank you so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll be seeing you next week.